What are the most powerful staple cards in the game? Big dog, I did the research no one wanted to do. It was traumatizing. And today I'm going to be breaking down what are the best staples and hand traps you should be using in your deck to not only win a YCS, but more importantly, to beat your friends. We already know what's more important than Yu-Gi-Oh! Nintendo Switch? No! Beating your rival in a heated duel because of this list. Yes. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Because you guys loved it so much, I decided to give you both staples and hand traps inside of this video, divided into two different sections for your ease. So you can't say I'm not looking out for you, dog. All you gotta do is hit that like button and let me know down below in the comment section some other videos you'd like to see. One of the best ways to determine if we're in a healthy Yu-Gi-Oh format is the power of effect negation hand traps. I mean, it's not like if Yu-Gi-Oh ever said it wasn't feeling well, we could take it to the doctor or something. And in America, boy, you better rub some salt on it or something. You ain't going to the doctor. We ain't got no insurance. Since monsters are the most important aspect of the game, being able to have checks and counters to those particular strong effects is key. With that being said, as we start to talk about the effect negation hand trap cards, Infinite Impermanence still holds the title as a must-play hand trap. Effect Veiler, solid choice. Herald of Orange Light, easy must-play. And Ghost Mourner, sleeper. The biggest reason why Effect Negation is going to be giving you middling results is because the three strongest decks have ways to be able to play around them. Against Snake Eyes, using an Effect Negation card on a fire monster can cost you dearly. Fire King Kirin can severely punish you. Against Yubel, it's really hard to stop this deck because you have to preemptively negate monster effects like Samsara D Lotus, and once they put Phantom of Yubel on the field, the rest of your hand traps outside of Impermanence are useless. Against Tenpai Dragon, there's Sengen Summoning. Yeah, you know, the miscellaneous Sarah's card that Konami should have never made, it still exists. The good thing about this situation is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't just those three decks. While you need to be mindful of the most powerful strategies in the game, there are so many other strategies that are susceptible to this hand interruption. Centurion, Mementos, Chimera, Sky Striker, Exodia, the list goes on playable Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategies, so keep that in mind when considering your effect negations. I think Imperm and Herald of Orange Light are king because Imperm can be used on either player's turn, and Herald can stop a card no matter where. Effect Veiler is middling because it can only be used on your opponent's main phase, and Ghost Mourner is almost in no man's land. It can be really strong against some of the other strategies, but against some of the best, it's not cutting it out. The next section is those high impact hand traps. High impact hand traps are defined as cards, if you wouldn't have guessed it, have a very high impact. They either change how a player will play or deck build, or can dictate the pace of the game. If too many of these cards are in must play, Yu-Gi-Oh! Could be in a really bad spot. With that being said, Droll and Lockbird can be considered a must-play Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. It's such a good counter to so many cards. Dimension Shifter is amazing against the top decks. I think both the Molchumi cards are great side-worthy cards, and we'll talk about those in a second. Nibiru the Primal Being is also one of those cards that's middling side-worthy to solid choice, and Spooky Dogwood has always been a side-worthy Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. Now, you're probably wondering a couple things. One, why is Droll so good, but more importantly, why are the Molchumi cards in side-worthy? They're in just about every single topping Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategy. Now, the Molchumi cards in Nibiru are very interesting cards. They're something that I would like to call as game defining. They will determine certain cards in certain strategies that you will pick, but once you prepare for these particular cards, they're not as strong. You don't even have to take my word for it. You can do your own research. So many players in their deck profile said that yes, this card is amazing, but no, I didn't get to resolve it. Then there's players that said, yes, I got to use this card, but I only got to draw one card. And it's because players are evolving and figuring out ways how to beat this card. And no means do I think that the Molchumi cards are terrible. But just like how when Nibiru came out, there are flaws that players are going to be exploiting. You don't need to spend $600 to be able to get these 6 cards. And if you want more detail on why I think Molchumi Ferraris is not worth its price tag, I even made a video about it. Go ahead and check it out. Now, as for Droll and Lockbird, the card is crazy good because not only is it one of those counters to Ferraris, there's a ton of searching going on in the game. It's one of those cards that you'll start to notice that more players are using right now because there's so many rogue strategies in the game, and this card is really good against them. Moving forward, we have our versatile impact cards. These cards are really good at stopping effects that most cards can't. A lot of times it's spells, it's traps, it's monsters, it's just about anything. And those cards are Ash, Dominus Purge, Impulse, and Ghost Ogre. Ash is still a must play. Dominus Purge and Dominus Impulse are very solid cards. Ghost Ogre is also incredibly solid. Ash is one of those cards that comes up in so many different matchups. Stopping Tenpai Dragon's Field Spell, Nightmare Pain, the effect of Snake Eyes, Ash, or Oak to summon from the deck, and the list just goes on. But Dominus Impulse and Dominus Purge should not be slept on. And a bold take is that Dominus Impulse is the strongest hand trap inside of Rage of the Abyss, not Frolris. Look, big dog, I'm not hating on Frolris, I just think that Impulse is crazy. The only drawback to Impulse is that ironically, its restrictions limit the other hand traps that you can play. Droll, Nibiru, Ogre, Mourner are a host of cards that mysteriously don't work alongside of this card, but the cards that it stops are crazy good. A lot of people don't like Dominus Purge because it serves the same purpose as Ash Blossom, but one big thing about Dominus Purge is that you're not playing into the Triple Tactics Talent or Triple Tactics Thrust cards. And also, if you happen to not play any Fire, Dark, or Water monsters, then it's a free win. Ghost Ogre is crazy good at hitting so many face-up cards on the field, important field spells, continuous spells, and trap cards, and it's really good at getting rid of monster threats. This card should not be slept on. Now on to the graveyard cards. We have Psycho Reader, DD Crow, Ghost Bell, Skullmeister. Psycho Reader is our first Copium card. DD Crow, Ghost Bell, Skullmeister are sleepers. And if we're going to move on to the other impactful cards, the Bestial monsters are really good as sideworthy. Artifact Lancia is Copium for right now, and Chaos Hunter can be considered in our next category. In this category, I'm going to put it in sleeper though. Graveyard Hate is not bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just really hard to justify putting these cards in your deck over some of the other hand traps that I list, main board and sideboard. They all fit a niche situation, but if you find yourself in that position more often than not, then strongly consider playing them. Now, as for Chaos Hunter, this is a hand trap that's really weird. A lot of players are using Mannequin Cat to summon this monster to the side of the field when you get Dimension Shifted, so you don't have to banish your cards anymore. And that can be incredible if your deck is weak to Shifter and can summon level 2 monsters. Next category is the monsters that summon themselves to the side of the field and provide an effect. Contact Seat is Copium for now. Retaliating Seat is sideboard worthy. Both the Psyframe cards are also side worthy, and Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, sheesh, I'm gonna put it in solid choice. If Psyframe Gear Gamma was at anything more than 1 in the TCG, this card would be a must play. It is the perfect counter to both the Molcharmy cards, and is a solution to what I was talking about earlier when it comes to effect negation. Psyframe Delta is really important because there are so many powerful field spells in the game, and Retaliating Seat is incredible when you're playing against decks like Chimera and Azamina. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme is ridiculous. Keep in mind, this card can not only fix your hands and protect your monsters from being targeted, it's also a card that summons itself anytime Link monsters are special summoned. That means whether your opponent is using IP Masquerade, the Link summon on your turn, or summoning Promethean Princess from the graveyard, this card can be summoned and can see you more cards in your hand. And lastly are the uncategorized cards, which I'm not even gonna lie to you, every single one of these cards are Copium. Swift Iron Scarecrow, Ghost Reaper, Gnome Material, and Ceravis. The only one that even has valuable play is Ceravis, but it's only good when we're in a heavy targeting format. Like hypothetically, if Ghost Mourner, Effect Veiler, and Imperm were must-play cards. Still a solid card for Voiceless Voice, but I wouldn't consider playing it inside of my deck if I weren't playing Voiceless Voice. And that's pretty much where the hand traps stack up. They're incredibly powerful cards, and to some degree, you do need to play them. And like I said before, whether you're playing a small or big lineup is all dependent on the deck that you play. Now, the staple cards are a little bit more simpler, but also way more impactful. Playing the wrong staple cards could be more than just stapling those divorce papers together. You might as well just staple your whole Yu-Gi-Oh career away. And playing the correct ones can have a high impact. Starting off with the spell and trap removal cards. This one's pretty easy. Both Duster and Cosmic Cyclone, as well as Lightning Storm, are sideworthy. Twin Twisters is staple those divorce papers together, and Evenly Matched is also a very, very, very good card. Now, spell and trap removal is really important, but I wouldn't say main deck worthy important right now. Because it's so much deck diversity, it's actually good to come a little bit more prepared than you normally would. If I were to order the side deck spell cards, Cosmic Cyclone is easily hands down the best one because it can be used in response to your opponent's card effects. They're field spells like Nightmare Throne, Snake Eyes Temple, and Sanguine Summoning, but then there's also other powerful cards like the Snake Eyes cards they put in their spell and trap card zone, Nightmare Pain, Centurion monsters, and so so much more. Duster overall is just a good blowout, and Lightning Storm has versatility. Evenly Matched is incredibly good because it does allow you to be able to get rid of spells and traps, but also monsters. And typically, if you're playing a deck that main board's evenly matched, you're not going to be playing a ton of hand traps. For the negation cards, we're pretty much still on the same time as well. Forbidden Droplet is main board worthy. Dark Ruler No More is also main worthy. Forbidden Chalice is staple those divorce papers together, and technically the Black Gold Laughs is an effect negation. I'm gonna put it in situational. Again, these staple cards are really dependent on what you're playing. If you're playing a board breaker style approach, then Dark Ruler No More paired with Evenly Matched is your best bet. Forbidden Droplet can be played in both a board breaker and hand trap deck, and bonus points if you're playing Infinite Impermanence alongside of Dominus Impulse, because a lot of times the ways that players beat Forbidden Droplet is to activate a trap card, then chain the effect of their Fiendsmith Desiree. But if you're sending a trap card to the graveyard alongside a Droplet, you're actually cooking your opponent. Now there's a long list of monster disruption cards, so let's go ahead and get into it. Solemn Strike, despite what people are saying, is a good card. This is actually crazy. Dino Wrestler Pankratops is situational. Metaronus is also situational. Ultimate Slayer, another one of those situational cards. Super Polymerization, pretty good. Super Polymerization is a crazy card because players are getting really greedy. They're playing both Fiendsmith and Azamina. These cards just so happen to be Illusion and Fiend monsters, meaning that Super Polymerization can break their entire board. Though I would suggest that you don't play Super Poly inside of a deck that's already not fusion reliant or can't take advantage of the fusion materials you can summon. Raigeki is another good card, and Final Bringer of End Times, I'm gonna say situational. Getting rid of your opponent's monsters is still really good. Yes, we are starting to get more cards that can negate spells, traps, and monsters, but it isn't always the case where your opponent can stop these cards, and using them at the correct time can cook your opponent. What I really like here is Final Bringer of End Times. This card is crazy good, but I put it in situational because it brings out its truest potential when you're playing a deck that can get rid of the card that you have to target with your Final Bringer, allowing you to just destroy an opponent's card for free. Big dog, you should already know, anytime you hear free, your ears should perk up and you should love the card. Free is free. The Kaiju Light cards are a lot stronger in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Though Gamma Seal himself is situational and Alpha Master the Beast has stapled those divorce papers together, Lava Golem and Winged Dragon Arouse Sphere Mode are side-worthy cards. Kira Kira? It's staple those divorce papers together. I really wanted to make an argument for Kira Kira because it's searchable through Snake Eyes Ash, but even Snake Eyes players are still not playing Kira Kira despite losing so many level 1s. It's also dependent on your opponent being able to use those monster effects, meaning that you have to invest a ton of resources to summon this card a lot of times. Gamseal is situational because it does get rid of the threat but doesn't do enough, and Winged Dragon Arouse Sphere Mode as well as Lava Golem are perfect cards. They allow you to get rid of multiple threats. The only drawback is that you have to play a deck that doesn't need its normal summon. Not necessarily hard to do when there are so many good viable decks. For the other cards that can address monsters, Change of Heart is unfortunately a card that is situational. Book of Moon is also situational. Book of Eclipse is a pretty good card. Enemy Controller, staple those divorce papers together. Just like how I put Forbidden Chalice and staple those divorce papers together, Book of Moon and Change of Heart are pretty decent cards, but they don't do enough. Right now in Yu-Gi-Oh, you either need your staple card to be able to address multiple situations, like how Final Bringer of End Times can destroy any card on the field, or it needs to be able to get rid of multiple threats at one time, like how Raigeki and Book of Eclipse are. The only exception is being Solemn Strike, but this card often can't even be responded to and can stop so many things. Succumbing Song Morganite is a new card from Rage of the Abyss. It's not really that good. And the Hand Trap Responder cards. Triple Tactics Thrust and Triple Tactics Talent are main worthy Yu-Gi-Oh cards right about now. The only caveat to Triple Tactics Thrust is that you want to play a strategy that can already benefit from it. Like for example, if your Yu-Gi-Oh strategy plays a normal spell card that's really good, like Branded Fusion, or an engine-like trap card that allows them to be able to continue to play on the opponent's turn, like Fusion Deployment, then you can cook your opponent. There are some other strategies that follow what Branded does, and I think that's a core for playing Triple Tactics Thrust. And one thing that you should consider is that a lot of the times it's going to be live if your opponent is playing the Molcharmy cards. Crossout Designator is side-worthy and Called by the Grave is main-worthy. The interesting thing about Crossout Designator is that it became a stronger card once players start being a little bit more specific with their hand interrupts. I wouldn't consider maining Crossout Designator unless your deck is super fragile, which means you probably have other problems. But now that hand traps are a little bit more profiled because of Dominus Impulse, you can almost predict what your opponent is playing and play Crossout Designator because of it. Call by the Grave is a must-play staple because not only does it hit a lot of hand traps, it's also just a really good card. You remember when I said that Graveyard Disruption was sneaky good? Call by the Grave does exactly that. And lastly is Remove Brainwashing, which I would put and staple those divorce papers together, and Threatening Roar, which is side-worthy. Threatening Roar is really just a marker for cards like Different Dimension Ground and Dimension Barrier as well. These cards are really, really good if you are playing a Thrust package. If you're going first against Tenpai Dragon and they drop that Moltrummy, well, you can FTK them by using Thrust to get in Dimensional Barrier. And if you're going against a deck like Snake Eyes, well, that Different Dimension Ground can cook them as well. And that's all I got for hand traps and staples. My boy Maurice is going to give you one quick run back on what are the most powerful hand traps. I think the only thing that's decently controversial is the Moltrummy cards, but I explained them in detail. Also, Big Dog, show them the staple cards. Not a huge change from last time, though there have been some critical moves that you need to be updated about. Of course, Big Dog, if you like these type of videos, you already know what to do. Go ahead and hit the like button. Let me know down below in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel, but more importantly, check out these other videos so I can catch you on the next one.